Hey guys, and welcome back to another AFL fantasy video. In this video we're going through the cash cows for round 19, is it now? Round 19? I think it is, yeah, round 19 for the AFL fantasy 2024 season, in which we do have a couple of decent ish rookies, and that'll be good for at least getting all of the cash gen possible. I mean, we have at least two realistically good options, and then the rest of them are, do you really want to have definite cash gen, or do you want to have get that really big upgrade on field, like getting a Dunkley instead of I know Paddy Cripps is doing right now really well, but Josh Dunkley has the history, the form, the everything to suggest that he should be able to go a little bit better than Paddy Cripps for the rest of the year. That's sort of the difference we're talking about with these cash cows. And how they sort of have a flow-on effect. But anyway, before we jump into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So, as you see here, Lawson Humphries, 3 games now, average of 84, 105 in his last, and a negative 32 break even. Let me just chuck that up there. There you go. So you can see that. And yeah, I think he's a really good one to obviously hold if you have him still. 27% do. I don't know how many is necessarily. Let me actually just check this. If I go ins, Lawson Humphries 4.2k traded in. I do think that you could. It depends how much you see him averaging, because if you see him averaging the 85, then he's a decent enough sort of almost in a way primo that you can underpriced primo, like 24th, 25th primo, that you can just put in that defender midfield rotation, and if he gets 100, then just play him on field. You have that all sorted, like through a loop, etc. But the loops this week are actually quite tough because a lot of the teams that we use for loops are actually playing early, so that'll be a watch for those people there. So yeah, you gotta watch that one. But with regards to, if I just go to break even again, Lawson Humphries, I think this one's a decent one to go for it. 384k, even though you could say he's overpriced, I just think with the way that Geelong are running games at the moment, he seems to be one that's getting a load of marks, and especially late on in the games. And if they are just trying to run out games, he will just get a load of marks. I think he ended up with something like a 68 second half or something like that, alongside a 58 second half in the round 17 and a pretty good second half in round 16. So I think he's one that you should be jumping on. Sean Manor, 367k. I'm a little bit more hesitant about him because he's got a 115, a 70, and a 45 in 4 games. That amounts to, that amounts to 230 in 3 games, which is still 83. So I'm just a little bit more hesitant with him. And I'm a little bit more hesitant with him just because with the backlog of players that they have there, he could easily turn into the sub again if they have some guys back. But I don't know if they do necessarily. So yeah, he's just going to be, I think, for me, the F7 loop that I'll have for the rest of the year, or give or take, given that he can score decent enough, like I was saying with Humphries. But I don't know if I would be grabbing him up necessarily, just because 150k for Zach Taylor, who should be playing full games now, I think is a lot better option, to be honest. So moving on to Zach Taylor, a guy that I thought about bringing in, but the problem with Clay Hall being only a midfielder has sort of meant that he's not really in consideration. I would if I could bring in a midfielder, but I can't because I've got that defender already in the utility line. Don't want to get rid of any of those. Don't want to get rid of Schoenmaker or Logan Evans. So I can't really bring in Taylor at the moment, and I'm thinking about other ways around it, other upgrades potentially, etc. But Zach Taylor here, 3 games, 36 average, 86, has been hammered by the sub role with an 8 and a 16, and pulled out an 86 last week with 8 tackles. Will be interesting to see his full role. If they, I don't know if they have anyone returning necessarily, but Phil Thorpe was the sub last week for them, and I think he's playing full game, so I don't know whether Taylor will go back to being the sub or not. But if we go to here and we go Rochelle, do we have Zach Taylor here? Zach Taylor, yeah, here we go, 18, 23, 26%. So didn't really have an uptake in necessarily on ball numbers, but with Rankin missing, It does seem like he may, there's Zach Taylor actually here, I think it is that Zach Taylor? No, Zach Taylor's there. I believe Zach Taylor, yeah, there you go. There's Zach Taylor's numbers, 18, 23, 26. So it is this ranking spot that they're trying to fill. They may go back to Saligo again, but that midfield is an absolute mess, pretty much, simply put. And they have used, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, take away 2 rucks. And then you got Rochelle in here as well as McElhaney. They've used like a solid 7 guys over 50% in a game at least, which is kind of crazy, as I don't think a lot of teams have that sort of number yet here. Let me just look at the Swans. The Swans have only used 1, 2, 3, 4 guys in there. Yes, you've got Adams and McInerney and Jordan are very close, but the use of Adelaide, just using every single midfielder that they've got, kind of crazy compared to others. But Zach Taylor is an interesting one. I think he gets full game, and I think he's fine. He's going to make 130, 140k in the space of like 3 or 4 weeks. That 39 is not going to hold. I think he's going to score like 60s. And a 60 should see him, I would think, go up about 50k, and then 55, and then like 60. Oops, hit my mic. And that would be roughly 165k in the next 3 weeks. So yeah, if he hits 360 games, he'll be up there, and yeah, I think he's a good buy-in. He may even be a good buy-in next week at like 270k, to be honest with you. Logan Evans, a guy that I've talked about a little bit. I don't think you can buy him now at 431k, just because he isn't doing what the likes of Lawson Humphries or Sean Manor is, and having that big playable game from the emergency spot. But he's just being super consistent. 75, 59, 88, 80. I think he's just super consistent, going to make huge amounts of cash. And like we said, I think in one of the reviews, still going to make 106k projected in the next 3 weeks. And that's probably an unders projection. I think he could make, what did I say, 106k? Could probably make 120k. And 120k in 3 weeks being priced at 550k, absolutely huge. Steely Green, another guy that has been a little bit talked about in some things. I don't necessarily rate his role, to be honest with you, and we've seen it before. He had a full game for a 19, a sub game for a 29, and now a full game for a 70, but that did involve 3 goals. Take the 3 goals out, that's a 52. Are you really spending money to get a 52 in, or are you going to try and maneuver things around to not have to pay for Steely Green? Steely Green was one that I might have been forced into just because of it, just because I needed a forward, out-and-out forward. But I think the maneuvers now that I'm making, which have changed in the last 24 hours, as I said they probably would, mean that I don't have to grab him, as I don't really rate his potential to get any points, because if we go here, I don't think he was playing on ball. Let me just check that. Yeah. So yeah, I don't rate the option of Steely Green anyway, even though you will have Taranto out next week, so we'll see who they go there. That would probably mean that McAuliffe comes back in, I would suspect, for Taranto, and that has no effect on Steely Green. And he's got Port Adelaide anyway, which should be a tough matchup, all considering. Monique's Wakefield, 325k. I think this is just missing the boat on him now. We're just way too far down the line. And 3 games, 61. He got pulled as well in the last game, so he's on the edge as well. So I think just keep clear of this one. 325k. I think there are much better options for cheaper, even to the point that I would say Steely Green is almost a better option cheaper, because you save 90k and Steely Green's still going to make cash. Monique's Wakefield's still going to make cash, but you're saving 90k, which can be used on field. And basically realizing that cash generation that you've got through spending 90k less and spending it more on field is going to be more impactful, I think. Francis Evans, Zane Drew, I think he could get run time for the rest of the year. 22-year-old, 2 games, 55 average basically, and had a sub game for a 13, and then a 74% for a 96. We'll see how it goes next week against St Kilda, but he could be an interesting one if he really does pull out a big one and has like a negative break even still. If he pulls out a big one as 340k potentially, you could grab him as that sort of as that sort of loopable guy that could go big. But I think this one's just going to be one that everyone misses just because Zach Taylor is a better option and Zane Drew is like 80k more expensive for a less break even, but probably a better role because I believe he was in the CBAs for West Coast Eagles. Let me just double check that for you guys. Here we go, 1 second. Zane Drew, 45% CBAs. There you go. There's that. Biggie, no. Fonty, no. I don't think so anymore. I think he really showed... he's shown quality, but at the same time, it's just 40s and 50s. You're really not going to see much cash gen out of him. Yes, he probably will pop a big score, but I just think there are better value options. And 252k, I just don't think he's the one to go for. Sharman, Phillip is injured, Blight is a key defender and not even in the side at the moment. Vicentini not even in the side. Hutchinson scored a 36, that's why you don't go for full out and out forwards, and this is the same similar mindset to Steely Green, don't go for him. Hutchinson had a 64 a couple of weeks ago basically because of 10 tackles, then dropped to 0 tackle effort, and down to a 36. Mackay, no. Sin, no. Shadow Braun, no, he's already been sub a couple times, so no thank you there. He'll be good next year when he's like, if he gets into the side. How old is he? He is 20, so he's still young. He'll be fine. Schoenmaker, probably the last week of him, to be honest with you. Just four games, 60 average, 58.8 average, 60 in his last. He'll be fine, but he's not sending the word of light, I will say, and he's in that 70s time on ground, so he's not really getting the massive time on ground to enable him to score well. But anyway, and then all these guys are basically up to the rookie prices anyway. So that pretty much is the video there, going through all of the cash cows for round 18. And just to recap, Zach Taylor is probably my number one, then Lawson Humphreys, Sean Manor, and then probably Steely Green, I would say, and then probably Zane Drew, and then Monique Wakefield. Like, you're really hitting on the first three here of Zach Taylor, Humphreys, and Manor, and that's basically it this week. But anyway, that's the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.